But the campaign against Monsanto in Nigeria is getting louder by the day. Many have questioned their credibility and intentions.
What they're just doing is just playing God a little, taking genes from some other organisms that are totally strange to one another. For instance, taking genes from animals, putting in plants so that the plants can be... We're not opposed to science, let's be clear here. Especially now that we know that climate change and environmental hazard is putting a lot of pressure on our agriculture. We know that we need to help farmers with varieties of seeds and plants that will be more resilient to flooding where that is the case, or to drought where that is the case. And we have been having that. Our forefathers have been doing it. We are not opposed to science. We are not opposed to helping crops, bringing out the best, using, hybrids and crops is a different thing entirely. What we are saying is that what Monsanto is doing is denaturing food itself, changing the entire nature, so that you see a tomato that looks red and plump, but really the content is far from being red and plump. The easiest way for you to know that what they are doing is playing God is that generations over, what the farmer does is whenever it plants, immediately that plant grows, the farmer picks out the best, from such plants to replant in the land. And that is what has been happening. But in the case of this GM, genetically modified organisms, particularly the kind of seedlings that Monsanto want to sell to us, you cannot replant those. I give you a vivid example. The federal government has been working with the IITA in Ibadan, for instance, on crop enhancement. And the IITA people came up with red gari, came up with vitamin A fortified cassava. And if you go to IITA and tell them you want to buy cassava sticks, they tell you they are not selling. They will direct you to their farmers, people they have worked with in the past, who have planted this cassava and multiplied the sticks. Because these sticks are good and regenerative, you can just buy from anywhere and plant, and it will give you the same thing, even better if your soil is better.
Their argument hinges on the many lawsuits filed against Monsanto. Farmers in the United States, Brazil, and even India have cases against the company.
How will the entry of GMO affect the lives of smallholder farmers? That has been discussed exhaustively. Several hundreds of thousands of farmers in India committed suicide. Why did they commit suicide? Investment was no longer efficient. Massive debts were already incurred by cyclic importation of the improved seedlings. Now, by virtue of this importation, you're already running a trade deficit, which Nigeria is presently in big problems with. Huge balance of trade deficits. And now you are going to add another major problem when you begin to talk of the maximum repatriation of funds. Now, the issue here is how much is even being invested here? Now, what is even the degree of impact that this makes in the lives of those stakeholders, whereby the maximum repatriation should be guaranteed?
This is the right time to come to Nigeria and make investments, develop partnerships, and help farmers here in Nigeria increase their yields, especially maize and cotton farmers. And so that's our main interest here. A lot of people ask about biotechnology or GMOs, and that is definitely a part of our business. And biotechnology is a technology that helps farmers farm more efficiently, increase their yields, and do it in a more environmentally sustainable way. And so it's an outstanding tool and technology that farmers in over 29 countries around the world are now having access to biotechnology, or what sometimes is called GMOs.
Have the stakeholders even been guaranteed maximum satisfaction? The consumers, are they enjoying maximum utility on the crops that are being consumed? On the soybean, have they been guaranteed maximum satisfaction? On the maize that is going to be consumed, have they been guaranteed maximum satisfaction? The farmer who is going to be laboring day and night, spending income and sweat, tears and blood on the farm, has he been guaranteed maximum ROI, returns on investment?
We're looking and meeting with different companies. We met today with the government, but we also do outreach into the local seed companies. We met with the institute, trying to understand who would be the best partners to work together. we definitely will be looking to set up our networks through the different outreach through different states.
Indian activists called Monsanto seeds the seeds of deception, claiming the entry of Monsanto seeds in the Indian seed sector changed many things. Some of these, the activists say, include seeds which had been the farmer's common resource became the intellectual property of Monsanto, for which it started collecting royalties and thus raising the cost of seed. Another is that open-pollinated cotton seeds were displaced by hybrids, including GMO hybrids. A renewable resource became a non-renewable patented commodity.
How does genetically modified food impact on food security? Those are the questions we need to ask. If indeed genetically modified food can improve the availability of food, if indeed it can improve the affordability of food, if indeed it can improve the adequacy in terms of the nutrients, then why not? But that is not the case, because once you begin to import, that is a major chance, it's a major opportunity for capital flight. And now if we begin to look at the framework of the new alliance between the Nigerian government and the G8 and the Monsanto, we are talking about a situation where they are giving outright maximum repatriation of funds opportunity. Now, this, we're already reinventing the wheel of what we are facing in the oil sector, which has killed our refineries. Why not we focus more on revamping the value-added mechanisms for each and every one of these products? Maize, soybean, cotton. Why don't we focus rather on investing to improve the affordability of these products at home and to make Nigeria a net exporter of all these products in the external context?
These countries that have approved the products in 2013, of course, to really benefit for the first time from this technology when they are planted in 2014. I think one phrase captures a very important concept, and that is to say that you cannot feed the world of tomorrow with yesterday's technology. And what we are proposing here is that the North and the South work together harmoniously in order to address the big target for both of us, and that is feeding the world of 9 billion by 2050.
Some of it's not rocket science, because some of the soils in Africa are quite fragile. They're very, very thin. So if you're putting organic material back into the soil, mulching and this sort of thing, then basically it acts like a sponge and you can extend your growing season, or you're less vulnerable to kind of shocks if the weather's particularly dry. So these are some of the simple benefits they were getting. And if you go to a country like Uganda, right, they have a deliberate government policy to promote organic agriculture. They've got hundreds of thousands of farmers in the organic sector, and they are making 3 times the price on the international markets for things like pineapples. So, you know, maybe organic can't feed the world, but maybe in some places it can.
It is a fact that Nigeria needs help in its food production. The government is courting investors and seeking partners. But the last thing investors need is uncertainty on the return on investment. Meanwhile, oppositions to the GMs are asking questions. They want to know how local farmers will be protected and how government intends to add value to the food chain.
There are several options. First, Nigeria has a population of almost 150 million people, conservatively. And we are currently feeding these people. There are very few people that we say we are eating, we import rice. Yes, and there have been positive strides in that regard to create processing plants in the country. And I think that is the direction we should continue to seek. We should try and maximize the value chain within Nigeria. We should try and maximize processing and things like that, so we can be independent in this country. And that aside, funds have to get to these farmers. There are a lot of words and promises that are thrown around saying that all funds have been given to Nigerian farmers, they've been supported. But the fact of the matter is, we are doing so well without mechanization, without government assistance. Now, why don't we focus on getting farmers mechanization so that plants that they grow don't rot on the farm because of inefficient harvesting? If these people have equipment that can allow harvesting to happen, bringing in companies that can actually hold or create storage mechanisms, good logistic and transportation networks, so that the time between the food growing on the farm to people's plates is actually cut short, then we'll achieve a lot more productive output.
Have we guaranteed the sustainability of the future generations? There is a definition of sustainable development that I like to go by. It is the advancement of society today that does not jeopardize the capacity of future generations to achieve the same thing. What we are doing today, can we consciously, conscientiously, with every sense of responsibility and humility, say that this decision to allow GMO into Nigeria will not jeopardize the capacity of our children and forthcoming unborn children, descendants to come.
And they still have a chance to retain their independence and to retain their integrity. They need to stand up now while they have that opportunity. They need to think about the consequences that will happen, because sure, starting off, there will be probably Monsanto will give great lip service about we will only charge you this much for this, you know. But be assured, once the domination is there, they will charge basically what the market will bear.
Over 75% of proprietary seeds are owned by 10 companies. These seeds include designer GM seeds as well as non-GM seeds that are considered intellectual property of a company. The reality is some places, including the European Union and China, are becoming increasingly restrictive of genetically modified imports. Considering the nature of this industry, they need to protect local farmers. The food in circulation and the environment is becoming more important. So here is hoping that the biosafety law will consider the interests of all rather than the chosen few. Well, that's our program for the week. Thank you for watching. God willing, we'll be back with you next week. But before then, should you have any comments or questions, do send them to earthfile@channelstv.com. From me, Ayola Kasim, and everyone here, it's goodbye.